welcome back. You are listening to Joygasm, a video game and movie podcast. I'm Russ, he's Steve, and it is the NPC's turn to save the day in episode 237 today, August. What is it, August 19th? I was going to say 17th, but it's actually August 19th, 2021. We're going to be getting right into our topic of the day, which is the Free Guy movie review. But before we do, make sure you high-five that subscribe button. Maybe goose that notification bell. That way you will not miss a single episode of Joygasm, which drops once a week, every week. Steve, and before we actually get into the nitty-gritty of things, I just want to throw it out there. This is a spoiler alert. So we are going to be going right into spoiler territory here. If you haven't seen the film, you may want to consider holding off. Otherwise, let us resume. Sorry to cut you off there, Steve. I'm trying to get used to being good about that, you know?
Appreciate that, Russ.
Absolutely.
You're wearing semi shade of blue.
Oh, well, some might even say perhaps it's purple?
Looks
violet? Indigo?
Maybe. Not too NPC, but my shirt's a little bit blue.
You got. Well, even yours. You know, I must say, yours has a little. While it does have a little bit of blue, it does have. You know what? I think you have a little hint, a little something in there that's similar to my color of my shirt.
I don't know about that, Russ.
If I look real hard, I think I see it.
Excuse me. Had a little something get down in the back of my throat there, Russ. Apologize about that.
Hey, you don't need to apologize. I understand. It's just your spit trying to come up and say hello.
Yeah, say hello to the viewers. Hi. Anyhow, yeah. So,
but yes, to answer your question, yes, I thought it'd be appropriate to wear this shirt considering the fact that we are reviewing the movie Free Guy, and this is the one shirt that made me think of it where it says, you know, what doesn't kill you gives you XP. I mean, could that be any more fitting for Free Guy, Steve?
Possibly. Yes, although I think he got XP whatever he did.
You know, that's actually a good question because he obviously was not aware of gaining XP until he was made acutely aware of the fact that he was level 1.
Right.
So leading up to that point, he was doing kind of the repetitive things over and over and over again, but he actually wasn't gaining any experience. It was like when he broke out of his mold, then all of a sudden he was...
But I think when he broke out of his mold, he was still... I mean, he was kind of like Groundhog Day in a sense where, you know, he had to kind of learn the moves and everything what people were doing on a daily basis. And then he would wake up and then try it again and, you know, rinse, wash, and repeat. And then when he got it right, of course, he was gaining a level. Well, we actually don't know what kind of levels he was gaining because he just kind of went in the mirror and went like, okay, check. I'm at level 13, you know, because I did certain things. Maybe it was what didn't kill him actually earned him XP.
There you go. Exactly. The longer he stayed alive and was able to do it. But even when he died, I think he did. It's not like he lost his XP when he died. It's just, you know, when he broke out of his daily routine, you know?
Yes.
Steve.
I just wore blue because he wore blue and he was in a collared shirt.
It's too bad that you don't have like the exact blue shirt that Free Guy, or just Guy, is his name.
You know what? I probably could have worn one better. But it would have looked weird without a tie, Russ. So I just decided I'd just wear this one.
I bet you even have the khaki pants that he was wearing.
I have the khaki pants, and I have the tie clip. I even have that too, but I don't have a color tie that he had.
I'm so proud.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, Steve. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
What a fun movie.
It was pretty fun.
It was lighthearted, wasn't it?
It was lighthearted. Kind of reminded me of a modern day Truman Show. If Truman Show liked the movie Ready Player One or Wreck-It Ralph or something. You know?
I could see that. Yeah, that makes sense. Has a little bit of that in there.
A little bit of that rubbed in.
Indeed. And dare I say, with all the craziness that's going on in the world these days, it's kind of nice to go to something lighthearted. I find that I'm attracted and gravitating more and more toward the lighthearted movies. It was kind of like Bill and Ted's movie that we saw was at the end of 2020, right around there.
Yes.
I mean, we both liked it. It was lighthearted. It wasn't trying to be something that, was going to be like, I don't know, melodramatic or whatever. It was it was what it was. And we loved it.
That's true.
It was a lot of fun.
That is very true.
One of the things I wanted to kick off with, Steve, regarding this whole shebang is I want to talk about Ryan Reynolds for just a moment.
Deadpool. Right. Yes.
Well, more than that, Steve. I've been a fan of Ryan Reynolds for a long time. I think the first movie I saw him in was Van Wilder. Did you ever see Van Wilder?
Can't say I have, Russ. I know you have the movie. I think the first one I saw him was it's either The In-Laws or it's that movie with it's the Sandra Bullock.
Oh, I know.
He's like the Canadian immigrant, and he's working over here, and then
Sandra Bullock is his boss.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't remember the name of the movie, but I remember the movie itself.
And Betty White's in it too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That was the first time you ever saw Ryan Reynolds?
I forgot which movie came out first. It was either that one or it was The In-Laws that I saw, which was pretty funny. I forgot which one came out first, but I remember him being in that. I think might have been The In-Laws.
Okay. Well, so what I'm getting at is Ryan Reynolds accelerates. He excels at romantic comedies, which is fantastic. Like if I think about the various films he has starred in, he was in Van Wilder, romantic comedy. He was in Just Friends, one of my all-time favorite romantic comedies ever. It's hilarious. Even Blade 3, even though that wasn't a romantic comedy, if you recall, he had a relationship with the female vampire. Like they totally had some sort of like relationship in the past, and then they just hate each other. They despise each other. It's almost like an old couple that like just can't stand the sight of each other, but they constantly throw quips at each other, that sort of thing. And then I think of, Deadpool. Deadpool is arguably a romantic comedy. Now, it's incredibly violent, but at the same time, at its heart, it is a romance. It's a romantic romance movie.
Kind of an action romance comedy.
Indeed. And this is no different when you think of Guy and you think of the overarching story. At its heart is once again a romantic comedy. And I think it's great because there are other movies that try and replicate what Ryan Reynolds is capable of. And I feel like they constantly miss the mark. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe, perhaps. But I do want to jump in case you haven't seen the movie yet. That's what Ryan Reynolds' character's name is. It's just Guy. So when we're referring to Guy, we're not referring to like the guy, like Guy X, but he's an NPC in this world, non-playable character who has a routine life, and his name tag is Guy. No first name, no last name. Well, it is his first name. Oh, he has a last name, no rest, but that's his first name. That's the name he goes by throughout the whole movie. So, Guy.
Well, and it makes sense too because he's an NPC, right? NPCs, traditionally speaking, are forgettable characters. They're not meant to have necessarily some sort of memorable name, although I will say, in some instances, some NPCs do in fact have memorable names. Such as, like Sea of Thieves, for instance. There are several NPCs that have fun names associated with them. But they were trying to drive home the idea that these NPCs are forgettable. Their background, their wallpaper, essentially. Which is why his best friend's name is Buddy.
Yeah, that's right.
What did you think of Buddy?
I thought Buddy was cool. I liked how they had kind of their own little lives going on. I was supposed to be, you see that later in the movie where the AI is just kind of constantly developing when they break out of their roles.
Right.
And so, Buddy was a happy dude. Of course, you have to have a happy dude with the name of Buddy. And
his happiness was infectious, I felt like.
Yeah.
Like, he was just such a fun-loving, happy, loyal friend,
Yeah, for sure. And he was funny. He was a good guy. But yeah, when he and Ryan Reynolds were on screen, it was definitely a good time.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Did you feel bad when he got zapped?
I didn't. I feel like I didn't have that emotional connection with him when he got zapped and kind of faded away. You know, Avengers style. But
oh yeah, the Thanos snap.
Actually, I think they made reference to that, and didn't they?
There was something in there, yeah, where they did make. I can't remember
towards the end. I think when Ryan Reynolds or Guy is trying to get away from the dude.
Well, I think his official name was Catchphrase, right?
I don't. Well, they said launch the dude because like
launch dude. Yeah, I guess each one because then he comes in and he's like Catchphrase. You know, like they're like, oh, we didn't have time to change that name, but it actually sounds kind of cool.
But when he was rolling away and trying to escape from getting demolished, I think he was thinking of Marvel stuff because I heard him say like, "Oh, Thanos snap" or something. I'm like, what was that?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So going back to the idea of it being romantic comedy, we know that there is to be expected like a whole lot of comedy throughout, right? Like we see several instances of just different ways of poking fun at gamers and video games themselves and that sort of thing. And Ryan Reynolds, of course, is just, he's fantastic to be able to watch and him do his thing, right?
Right.
The thing, though, is that almost acts as a wrapper or even a vehicle to the romance part of it, which I thought was really cool. When going into it, it was neat to watch the journey of what unfolds. So like we get to know who Guy is as an NPC. We get to understand what his daily routine is and rinse and repeat that over and over and over again. And then he meets the girl of his dreams and totally is infatuated with her, falls for her, tries to get to know her, that sort of thing. And all the while not realizing that he himself he's not self-aware. It's interesting because the NPC itself is designed to be like this organically evolving AI. And at the same time, it hasn't gotten to the point, he has not had any kind of self-discovery that, oh, I am artificial intelligence. I'm an NPC. I don't actually exist in the real world. He thinks this is the real world.
Right. Which is kind of funny because the real world for him is, fast cars moving around with machine guns and fighter jets and helicopters running into buildings and shooting stuff at people and, I guess common day video game violence, yet this is the real world. And he's just happy-go-lucky throughout.
He doesn't know any better. He thinks this is in fact the real world, which is crazy because I felt like the filmmakers did such a good job of demonstrating how freaking violent some of these games of today are. I work in the games industry. I absolutely love video games, but what's crazy is like I'm watching this movie and there are scenes that I'm just like, oh my goodness, that is horrific in the background. And then it just instantly transitions to him just like kind of walking down the street with a smile. It's coffee. It's this funny contrast that's going on with that. But anyway, I don't want to digress too much on that. Going back to the romantic side of things, I really liked the romantic part of the plot. In terms of it being just this more original idea, this original approach to the kind of the love story, right? And we come to find out that Guy as an NPC was actually created to be a love letter to Keys, and Keys is the main
to Millie, from Keys to Millie.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
Switch really. To Millie. So that was actually really cool as well, in the sense that here you have a guy who's a programmer, kind of nerdy, he's a gamer. The gaming community is filled with real life folks who are very imaginative, are very curious, have a fun sense of humor, and to a large degree, they are romantics at heart in their own little ways, and there are lots of fun stories that have been revealed as to like how different folks who are gamers propose to each other or how they started dating and that sort of thing. It's a very sweet thing and that I find to have unique traits unto gamers. So it was cool that they decided to look more into this. And I thought it was so cool how we didn't know that as viewers until like 3/4 of the way through, where like you like for me, I felt as if like, okay, he's an NPC. We're understanding he's part of this overarching evolving AI, so on and so forth. But then they started to drop little hints of things like, she loves bubblegum ice cream. He loves bubblegum ice cream. She loves swinging on a swing set. He loves swinging on a swing set. And it was interesting in the sense that for a while I was wondering, okay, what's going to happen in terms of this budding relationship between Guy and Millie? What do you think of that whole process?
I like how it unfolded, but I mean, they dropped a pretty big nugget early on for me when they were showing the history of these two gamers making this thing, and they were talking and they had some chemistry, and the reporter mentioned it. She says, oh, you guys know a lot about each other. Oh, is there some chemistry going on here? And hit nudge nudge wink wink.
Right.
And he's like, no, there's nothing going on.
Yeah, that was definitely a big hint.
So yeah, I thought, well, I mean, they put that in there for a reason. So it would be a surprise if it didn't happen. Like somehow she got like sucked into the game or something, and they wound up in this digital Sims world like altogether, right?
Yeah.
But then it's not that much science fiction.
But it does beg the question in terms of where the plot was going, because clearly he was absolutely in love with her and she was starting to have feelings for him as well. Like, I mean, it was crazy when I think about the kiss in the scene where, like, she as a player, she has no functionality to be able to like cause her character to kiss him, but because he lives in the world, he has like free will. He has a whole lot more range and animation, if you will. And so that was a lot of fun to see that. And you could see how touched she was in the real world. She was like, oh my goodness. Like this is like, you could tell like she was having like this like
a moment
conflict of feelings. Like, wait, this is an NPC. Why do I feel so much for this guy? And so that was really interesting. And then it goes from there over to how the NPC. Okay, so that was cool, and then it goes back to the idea where we as the audience begin to basically understand earlier and earlier that like Keys has feelings for her, that he loves her and everything, and what I thought was so cool, I've been really looking forward to picking your brain on this part, is when she went back into the world, she was trying to figure out how to break the news to Guy in terms of like how they could never be together and that sort of thing. And I loved how they flipped that kind of moment into this new opportunity where it was like Guy as an NPC, as artificial intelligence, literally a byproduct of him organically evolving was being able to understand the situation and understand his place in the game and understand how like they can never be together. But furthermore, understand like the very reason why he exists is that he is in fact that love letter to her. And I thought, man, that was like such a cool approach. What'd you think?
Yeah, I didn't know how that was gonna go, honestly, because she came up and to him and started talking, and I thought, okay, here's where like the sappy moment's gonna be, sort of thing.
Sure, the obligatory sappy moment,
right? Where like she has to say her goodbye, or not necessarily they have to erase him, but he has to accept like his digital place in life, and so I thought, okay, please don't cry, please don't like draw this out, sort of thing, and because I would have been like super corny if that was the case, and so she doesn't, and then it ended up being this lighthearted, goodbye of sorts, I guess.
Well, see, I thought it was mature. Like that was the cool thing, was like when I watched him say his lines and basically say like what he knew she was trying to figure out how to say to him.
Right.
And he was able to say it in a way that was so respectful and calm and even loving, how like, he still cared for her. But I thought it was the coolest thing because it's almost like a new version, like a 21st century version of if you like a girl in class and you pass that very first note that shares how you feel about her, and she has no idea that, or maybe like, maybe an inkling, but like doesn't really know your intentions or whatever. And I felt like he, as the NPC, as Guy, he was in fact that message that got passed to her, and he was aware of that. And I thought, man, that is a really original approach to this type of genre, right? Because we're expecting that type of, sappy romantic moment. Sure. And we're like, oh, we can't be together. Oh man, I just care for you.
I'll be here for you always.
Yeah. But so I give it high praise because it really, I don't know, like I'm glad there wasn't some kind of melodramatic, drawn out, they're crying and sobbing, we can't be together. Like I'm glad they did it in a way where it was like, my goodness, there's a lot of maturity and wisdom in that moment.
Right.
And then I just, of course, loved how when she all of a sudden discovers, oh my goodness, like Keys is the one who created him, and Guy is the one who's kind of like gently giving her that nudge, like, hey, FYI, it's not me.
Right.
It's him.
Right.
And to see her run after him for the coffee, all those things, like how Guy goes to coffee and gets the 2 creamers in the coffee and everything. I mean, that's like her kind of coffee that she loves. I mean, all of those little things where he takes note of the different aspects of life that she takes pleasure in, and he just created this digital summation of all those things. And I love too that when they see each other outside, like he's at the coffee store, she's across the street, and they come toward each other. I'm glad they also didn't do like the standard, camera slow motion rotating around them as they have some sort of long passionate kiss. Yeah. Like to me, it was cool how like you saw them to the point where they embraced in the middle of the street and then it was done. And I was like, man, that is fresh. I'd really like that. What'd you think?
Yeah, I liked it too. I was kind of waiting for there to be a kiss, but then I thought, it's not really this kind of movie in a way. And so, when they cut out, I thought it was kind of artistic the way they did it. I would have liked, no. I didn't want to see the kiss. I'm good with that, Russ. But I like the way they did it. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. And I think, excuse me, I had a little bit of the old gas on there. So. I really liked how they went about it, and I do feel as though if they went in the kind of more of the standard directions, that would have really hurt the film.
Right.
Honestly.
So, well, it would have been a little bit more cliche, maybe.
Yes, that's a very good just word. That's a good word, Steve. That's a good word.
But along that line, right? It was kind of cliche how they depicted some gamers out there. Like I know there's some like very good looking, gamer personality, professional, like contracted people out there, but like I don't like it when they go to this stereotypical standard like mouth breather kind of weirdo looking gamer people. Like that's not how they all gamers look. Sure. Right. And that's like kind of the go-to thing because it gets a laugh out of people, and I was kind of like, that joke's been used way too much,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I do think that there were a couple of instances of real life gamers that I thought were, despite the fact that clearly they were going for like that type of look and persona, Yeah. I really did enjoy like that guy who was like one of the more like superstar gamers who was like eating the Twix, and like you see like his not doppelganger, but like his character in the game that looks nothing like him whatsoever. But I also thought too, now that you bring this up,
I think it was a Twizzler, Russ, not a Twix.
Oh.
Twizzler is like the red licorice, and a Twix is a small cookie with caramel covered in chocolate. Quite different, if you ask me.
You are totally correct. Thank you, Steve.
Sorry to broadside you.
No.
How'd you get your candies correct?
I was just reminiscing over how that's one of the many qualities about you that I celebrate, Steve.
Halloween's coming, Russ.
It is coming. And you know what? Okay, not to go completely off the rails here.
You're dressing up.
If I had to choose between a Twix or a Twizzler, I'm a Twix guy. I love me some Twix.
Yeah.
What about you? Are you a Twix guy or are you a Twizzler guy?
I like to. Twix actually not sponsored by Twix, but a long shot. But Twix actually has a dark chocolate version, which is kind of good. I like it. But if you are just going to chew on some, it has to be probably a Twizzler. And I imagine when you're playing the game and you're not wanting to get like chocolate fingers, you're probably just going to choose a Twizzler.
I will make an additional anecdote to that, Steve, and let you know that I have worked with people in the gaming industry who actually would have like one of those cylindrical, see-through plastic, like things
jars
of Twizzlers. You know, the red Twizzlers coming out, and that was their candy of choice. Interesting. Where were we?
Don't know.
I'm in Candyland now.
Okay. Well, we were talking about cliche gamers.
And oh, yes. Thank you, Steve. See, once again. Amazing. Anyway, what I was going to say is that, so Millie, I feel as though was more representative of some of the other types of gamers out there that, you know, that they're just normal, everyday folk who like to play games and that sort of thing. They're not like super nerdy or whatever. And so you did have some of that there. I do want to pivot from that over to the like so one of my favorite scenes, and I'm sure it's probably going to be like one of the favorite scenes of pretty much anyone who sees this film.
Probably.
Is the moment where all of a sudden dude, aka Catchphrase, gets uploaded into the game itself. And there's that whole fight sequence going on. First of all, it was hilarious to see a roided out looking Ryan Reynolds. Like that was like so horrifically funny looking. And even when Buddy went up and started to like do his thing where he's like, like just the whole thing. Like, I'm like, oh, this is not going to end well at all for Buddy. But
I kind of thought it was funny at first, and then the joke kind of just died because they didn't do much with him. I mean, they said, like, the art team goes, oh, well, we're not done with him yet. He's going to have half a brain. And so then I thought that was kind of cliche, too, because it's like the muscle-bound character in a game is usually, like, not the smartest. Like, he's just big and burly and, like, I know how to break things. Smash. Not Hulk smash, but anyway.
But I did think it was cool how like his character wasn't finished, if you recall. Like they were still working on him. So he had certain things that didn't make him dumb in terms of like caveman dumb. He had things where he was literally like a work in progress. Like he had certain lines, like when he began to say them was like, it actually was pretty intelligent. And then it would just kind of turn into like gibberish because he was like, wait, what? And I don't know. I thought that was really funny. I do wish that they did have perhaps a few more lines for him to say, just because the few moments where like he did have more stuff to say, it started getting funnier and funnier. And again, Ryan Reynolds is just so capable of delivering stuff that's silly in that regard. But going from that into the best moment of the fight, which is he puts on his glasses, and out of nowhere, we see him take out the shield, and it is, in fact, legit Captain America. You even hear the Avengers theme song in it. That was so cool. What do you think about that?
What in the world? Yeah, it just seemed like it was a game that somebody hacked a mod in it or something. We're like, I'm going to play The Sims. And the Avengers, like, costumes and skins and weapons and stuff are not part of it, but I've learned how to code a little bit, you know, and now I can wield Thor's hammer or Captain America's shield or whatever. That's what it seemed like to me, because he selected it as a weapon or something.
Yeah, he had his glasses on. Yeah, he was going down there as like he's looking for some sort of defensive mechanism. Right. And I love like and just it's like it wasn't even a hint or like something that like faintly refers to
put
it.
It way out there.
I mean, they were like, boom, like you saw the star, you saw the front of the shield, you heard the theme song, and then the cherry on top was seeing Chris Evans watching the stream. He's like, what the crap? Like,
no way.
Yeah, like that was, my goodness, like that was brilliant. I'm so happy that they were able to like, I mean, who knows how many conversations they had to have in order to green light that like one dinky little moment, but it was like one of the best moments in the entire movie.
Yeah, no, it definitely was one of the best moments. I mean, that was the humor in the movie wasn't very funny. Like it was basically a chuckle movie.
Yeah.
But that segment was probably the funniest part of the movie.
And then you also saw him use a Hulk arm as well, just to kind of once again like, oh, we're kind of having fun with that. And so then you're wondering, okay, how are they going to top that? And even in my mind, I'm thinking about how, okay, that's the gag. Now we're going to move on to the fight. And then he pulls out a lightsaber. Right. And I'm like, what on earth? This is so awesome. And not only that, but like you have all these different gamers who are watching the stream live and they kind of like dole it out, right? So they're like, is that oh my gosh, it is. I can't believe it. That is a lightsaber. And I think he even had like some of the Star Wars theme music in there too, just briefly as he starts swinging it.
I couldn't hear. I couldn't hear if there was Star Wars music. I couldn't hear it as clear as I could the Avengers music, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was there.
Now you were doing research in terms of who was behind the film, and it sounded like you said that Disney actually
distributed.
So they are the distributor of the movie Free Guy. So that's where they got the green light because Disney owns all these IPs,
including 20th Century.
And it was 20th Century Fox behind. I don't recall.
It was Russ. I think you walked in like right after that part.
Oh my goodness, Steve. Oh my goodness. See, and I want to see more of that. Oh, a whole lot more. Okay, Disney, if you are watching,
or not, Russ.
Don't be so sure, Steve. Do not be so sure. I want to make sure that if the Mouse House is watching our show, keep doing stuff like that because you have all these IPs that are celebrated and beloved. And if you are able to have fun with them in this way that act as these cameo crossover Easter egg type of goodness, people are going to eat it up. Just don't overdo it. You have to be clever how you go about it. But this, in my book, was a win.
Don't give me orders, Russ. I'll do whatever I want to make me money.
Oh my goodness. It's the ghost of Mickey. So, Steve, let's go over to... Did you have anything else you want to say about the fight sequence, or was that... Okay. Let's pivot over to how they represented the games industry, because I thought that was also something interesting, seeing as how I'm working in the games industry. Oh. You are a gamer as well as I, so we have, of course...
We have that in common.
Affinity... A vested interest, if you will, when it comes to knowing what is going on in the world of the games industry. And I felt like there were certain elements that they were pretty accurate about. I mean, I do think that when it comes to the more like number side, the greedy side of the games industry, unfortunately, it is a reality. And we see stories like that with various publishers, such as Activision and whatnot, where they've been getting into hot water based off of certain types of shenanigans that go on. I did think that part was fairly accurate in that regard. It's also too like the studio that they were at where they're working. It was a little more like done up. People, at least places I've worked at, they do have these certain spaces that have kind of that industrial loft kind of look and that sort of thing. This one, they did have a lot of glass, I noticed a lot. And the building was like super huge. And I think there's probably only like maybe a handful of studios that have that kind of coin. Like I would say Epic Games probably, I don't know if you remember this story, but Epic Games apparently is going to be moving its headquarters into like this abandoned mall. Have you heard about this?
No. Negative, Ghost Rider.
Well, with the amount of coin that they have been amassing, mainly through Fortnite, they are going to be actually having their headquarters exist within some kind of mall in North Carolina. It's pretty crazy there, Steve.
That's nuts, Ross.
Indeed. Look at that.
Cray cray.
Look at that guy. Look at
How you doing?
Look at his baby blues. We did touch upon the gaming community a bit, but what did you think overall, like aside from like some of the looks and that sort of thing, what did you think of how the gaming community was represented?
I thought the gaming community was, I mean, in my head, fine. Although I think that the one takeaway was Taika Waititi's character. I thought that was a bit overdone. Like you could tell he was like the villain.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know who wrote his character. It was way out there. I think it was too far out there, where he was trying to get to the level that he thought like the kids would speak at, sort of thing. Like, oh, hey, bro, what are you doing? Let me think about it for a minute. You know, so I thought, no, that's not getting it. I mean, he's supposed to be the villain, but his character, I didn't really care for.
Yeah, well, and it was intentionally over the top. I mean, like they were going for clearly an eccentric character. But in terms of the gaming community, I did think it was fun to see like the contrast between what the gamers look like versus their counterparts in these games. I did think it was I don't know what the right word is, but like I was observing how they focused on the violent part of things. Like it was literally like GTA, right? Like if you're in some sort of like multiplayer online GTA game, you're going to have all this mayhem and chaos around you and violence and stuff like that. However, one of the things that I think was a bit of a miss was how that was very surface level. And what I mean by that is like, even if you play a game like GTA, there is a story associated with GTA, not to mention like you have people who are into exploring the world and doing like stunts with their cars in the air. And I mean, it's not just solely like people going around like using bazookas and rocket launchers and that sort of thing. I will say though, it was super cool to see the Scorpion tank from Halo rolling around in a couple of those scenes.
That was really cool, Russ.
It was.
But you got to think that, I mean, it's kind of a mirror of the gaming society in a way, where
you saw some teabagging going on.
You saw teabagging going on. I mean, like the toxicity was on full display.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just kind of how it is, for good or for bad. I mean, you're going to have people that are going to, you know, see you as like
griefers,
a noob, or they're going to see you as low level, or they're just going to have fun, like taking you out every single game that you're in and causing you frustration. And that's the amusing part for their reason to play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just kind of is what it is. But I will say though, I did appreciate how the gaming industry or the gaming community appreciated like all the good deeds, like,
yes,
you know, totally different kind of reversal in a way of like, you know, okay, instead of doing the body count and destruction count, it was okay, who can, you know, save the NPCs, or who can do the many good deeds, or who can, you know, be the good guy of sorts. And that's what got him experience, and that's what got him popularity. I thought that was a different approach for it.
And that part as well is worth touching upon, because the gaming community is one that is proactive. Thank you. But when it comes to the gaming community, if you think about the real world issues, or even like, so, okay, we think of gamers, you know, not only in the United States, but all over the world, right? Like there is this commonality that happens that unites folks. And I think it is one of the very cool things about the gaming community, where like if there's a novel idea, like a super creative novel idea for a game, and the gamers themselves, like we have these gamer instincts where it's like, whoa, this is something that hasn't been done before, or this is something that was executed in a way that like had missed the mark in the past. And gamers will reward the developers for that. It's really cool to see that, because they lavish that particular studio with praise, and they have all these ideas that they'd like to be able to share with the studio. Hopefully they get made. And at the same time, there's also this accountability that exists overall within the gaming community too. So like if a studio is not on the up and up in terms of being fair with the gamers, if they have some sort of like shady pay to play type of scheme in their game, or basically if the gamers feel as though they're being taken advantage of or cheated, then they become very vocal, and they, like, the mob essentially turns on that particular studio. But this is a very healthy thing, because it's an attempt to keep the folks honest and pure, in the sense of they want to be able to have the best gaming experience within this world, in this genre, as possible. And I think that is something that I think is pretty exclusive if you think about it to the gaming community, because I can't really think off the top of my head of another industry that has that. Can you?
I can't, honestly. No. I mean, well, it got me thinking of like the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, but that was more like Hollywood, but the gamers kind of got behind that. I mean, so it was kind of the same community, you know, of sorts. So,
well, they got Sonic changed.
I mean, right.
That was the biggest thing, was like, I think that's actually a wonderful example where like you see a crossover event taking place where you literally have the gaming community who will be the ones who will either make that film a success or a failure, and they were able to step over, and thankfully the director was receptive.
Sure.
But it was a very rare instance where, as the movie was being made, the gaming community said, no, you've got to fix it. This is what you need to do. Otherwise this movie's going to fail. We're not going to see it. And they did it. And the film ended up being like one of the best films of the year,
right?
Both commercially and artistically.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. So yes, I love my gaming community. You are all so awesome. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Pivoting once more, Steve.
Oh,
once more.
One more time.
I want to talk about the evolution of an NPC, Steve.
Okay, Russ, that sounds very psychological and in depth. Let's go for it.
When it comes to NPCs, Steve.
Uh-huh.
You and I have encountered many an NPC, whether it's in an RPG or it's in a racing game or it's in an action-adventure game or a first-person shooter. It does not matter. NPCs are around.
Mostly RPGs, I would say. In the tavern.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Eating, drinking, hanging out by the fire, walking by buildings.
Do you feel as though NPCs have evolved over the course of your gaming career, or do you feel like there's been not enough to really make them into something more realistic?
I would say they have evolved, maybe not that fast, but they used to just be filler, I guess, to make the environment look more like an environment or an atmosphere. Yeah. So, but then as time, progressed and people can write more coding, I guess, in games, or there's more room to write more coding, I guess. So you could walk up to an NPC and the NPC would recognize you and either avoid hitting you, or if you run into them, then, they treat you differently. Or if you enter in a fight with them, they're going to fight you at this, oh my gosh, sort of thing. Or depending on how you play in the game and, your reputation would precede you, and so they would look at you different than if you were to behave and act differently. So I would say so. I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say they evolved greatly or rapidly, because again, they're just filler, and you don't play the game to interact with the NPCs necessarily. You do so to progress through a mission if you have to. They
act as guides if you're trying to figure out what you're supposed to do or where you're supposed to go, or even if you go to a store to buy something, you have an NPC you interact with. I think that NPCs, so one of the games that comes to my mind is Red Dead Redemption 2.
I was thinking the same thing, Ross.
So good. See, great minds think alike. But when it comes to Red Dead Redemption 2, that was the first time where not really the first time, it's the most recent time, I'll say, where there was a noticeable bump in the way that the gamer interacts with NPCs. Because up until that point of playing that game, if I was playing, say, The Witcher 3 or something else that's kind of the equivalent, I have been conditioned as a gamer to just kind of run through the village, run through the town, run through wherever I'm at. And if there are NPCs that are kind of going through their little routines, their little system routines and stuff, I didn't really think much of it. The only time that there was a moment where I found myself wanting to interact was because I had to find an NPC that had some item of importance that I needed to get, or a mission I needed, or something else. Red Dead Redemption 2, though, I remember first going to my first town in the game, and I'm just running, and I'm not even caring as I bump into NPCs and stuff, and the NPCs took offense. It was the coolest thing, because that suddenly expanded that part of my gaming experience where I'm like, whoa, I have to watch where I run. I can't just like tear through and like, be a football player and not care about like my behavior in these areas. And it was crazy because like, so like you mentioned this where like, if you seriously knock someone over, they may want to fight you. Right. Or like if you knock a woman over and then she scoffs at you, she's upset or
Call
whatever.
The cops. She's like, wait a minute. I didn't mean to.
I thought you were just an NPC and nothing would happen. But I like how like there is consequence when it comes to that. And then that affects your overall reputation. I love that system where like suddenly like there is like pretty much like anything you do with regards to the NPCs that will determine whether or not you're a paragon or you're a vigilante, whatever that might be.
I would say that in the way, not with Red Dead Redemption, but in my case, more so with The Witcher, because like you would have to run through a bunch of different towns and speak to these folks who are barely making it by. And a lot of them have their own personality and their own like voice, that's not like recycled and some of them were, but anyhow, regardless. So then like if you do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing, mess with the wrong person, then there's a bunch of violence, and then these NPCs are getting slaughtered, and it's a violent game, so it's like you're hacking people's heads off, might kind of cut off a leg, and you're thinking, and I remember going like, I need to reset the game, because I can't have all these NPCs die, I can't have it on my conscience, I gotta go to sleep tonight, and so sometimes I would restart the game as to not have the NPCs die.
Even when it comes to the romantic side of things, so like, like using The Witcher or even Red Dead Redemption. So there are romantic interests that exist in the game. And, to a certain extent, like you may find one, like if you're using Witcher, you may like Yennefer, right? Or you may like one of the others that exist in the game. But that comes as more of like, as the narrative progresses and you select certain types of dialogue trees, then that's what can cause a relationship to blossom or to just kind of snuff itself out. Mass Effect was another game where like they had that. But when I think of Free Guy, it does make me wonder about where the evolution of the NPC is going to go in terms of like where we are in our current gen systems of PS5 and Xbox Series X, as well as like when we think about the future and we think about next gen consoles, because they're going to continue to get more sophisticated, more capabilities are going to be unlocked. And I think that that's going to be something to keep our eyes on when it comes to NPCs themselves, because we are, in fact, just based on what we're discussing right now, we are seeing more sophistication slowly being integrated into the NPCs. And it would be fantastic if they could evolve to the point where what we saw in Free Guy, where there is this organically evolving AI that based off of like, if you're in an open world and the more time you put into it, let's say you're putting hundreds of hours or thousands of hours into this game, that they are self-aware enough to understand what's happening and can also evolve with you as the game goes on. And if that were to happen, I think that the game loop overall would suddenly be something that would last a whole lot longer in terms of keeping gamers interested and creating value, honestly, because the NPCs, it's like they're there, originally they're there to exist, to kind of break up the static nature of the world. Sure. But it would be so neat to be able to have that level of depth and freedom where like, instead of having like, oh, this is the character you're supposed to fall in love with and have a romantic relationship with. Like, what if you could literally go through all the different hundreds or perhaps thousands of NPCs throughout this world, and you find one and you're able to woo that one person based off of different criteria and that sort of thing. Suddenly it's like, wow, okay, this is becoming that much more immersive.
Wasn't a Fable kind of like that though?
Fable had certain elements of it where like you could in fact go, and I think they had more choices of people who you could get married to and then have a house. Sure. But then it was like the journey for that kind of ended at that point. It's like you marry this person and now they're living in this house that you bought and you can go visit them and stuff. But that was about it. Like there really wasn't anything else to do. Like to me, I want to go on adventures with this character, like basically have like a blue sky situation where, anything is possible, but I don't really know like when that's actually going to occur.
Yeah, Ross, you gotta be patient for that.
Steve, could you please give us your concluding thoughts and rating of the film Free Guy?
I would say, to kind of give it a nutshell, Russ, I would say I would give this movie a 3-star.
Oh, he went for the rating first.
I went for the rating first, Russ. I'll tell you why. There was a lot of advertising for the film that was like, yo, it's going to be great. It's going to be funny. And you got to see it on a big screen. And I kind of felt that I kind of didn't necessarily need to see it on the big screen. In a way, I think it's kind of more of a movie for like Netflix or, HBO Max or something.
Sure.
I felt that the jokes, even though the movie was entertaining, the jokes were pretty flat. Like it's not hilarious. It's funny because you look at a lot of the Google reviews and people are like, oh, it's hilarious. I'm like, okay, cool. Glad you thought. I didn't think it was hilarious. It was a chuckle movie, and towards the end there was definitely more exciting and funny parts, but by and large it's supposed to be a comedy, but it's not that funny. And so that being said, I mean, I think if I were to rewatch the movie at home, I would probably just fast forward and see certain scenes, but I wouldn't watch it like from start to finish. So that also kind of takes some points out because, I rate on how much I would like to see the movie again. And even though I probably would watch it again, like I said, it wouldn't probably be, start to finish. It would probably just be a few select scenes. So, that being said, I'm glad I watched it. I had fun with it. I had a good time. I did not think it was a waste at all. I was entertaining. And so, yeah, I had a good time. Just not funny or eager to repeat it. But either way.
Thank you for that, Steve. Thank you. I thought the film was a lot of fun. I like the lighthearted quality of it. I'm glad that it was a romantic comedy and that it didn't, like, neither side took more precedence than the other. It was really well balanced, in my opinion. I really am always a fan of watching a Ryan Reynolds movie. It's always a good time, and this is no slouch in my opinion. I also love that it takes place in a video game world. Again, as I mentioned on this program, I love video games. Steve loves games. I work in the games industry, so it was another like element of interest when it came to the overall story of this, and I found the romantic side refreshing. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a very endearing, insightful kind of approach to like a story, like a classic tale that has been told many, many times in the past. I do really like too the idea of an NPC and what they were able to do with it. I do wish that perhaps there was a bit more exploration of that, but I think it may be challenging in terms of how they go about doing it, just because like the movie Her, which I'm not sure if you've seen that.
I've seen it.
You've seen it. Yeah. The movie Her is one of those that actually goes a whole lot deeper in terms of like kind of the psychology of having an AI that you could possibly have like a relationship with and that sort of thing. But I don't know. I found it a lot of fun. I agree in the sense that it's not a film that I'm going to be watching tons of times. I'll probably watch it here and there every once in a while, that sort of thing. But I recommend it. I think it's a lot of fun. And I too give it 3 stars, Steve.
All right.
Yeah.
Back to balanced.
That wraps up this episode of Joygasm. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to check out patreon.com/Joygasm and consider becoming a monthly contributor. You'll gain exclusive perks and early access to the show, not to mention it continues helping us do what we love to do. Also, make sure you caress that subscribe button and poke that notification bell. That way you will not miss a single episode of Joygasm that drops once a week every week. And by the way, you should also do a search for Joygasm TV on your social media platform of choice. You can also do a search for Joygasm TV on Twitch to see us stream our gaming adventures live every Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. We will look forward to seeing all of you again next week when we review the protege. We'll see you then.